Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and welcome to Master Leadership. Great leaders ask great questions, and this podcast takes you on a journey to master leadership with questions that matter to leaders who matter with your host, Lily Sanabria.
Hi, this is Lily, and welcome to Master Leadership, where we connect with leaders worldwide to gain insights on important topics to help us on our journey towards greater significance. If you would like to participate as a guest, or if you have a question that you would like to ask a guest, go to masterleadership.org for more information. Aslak De Silva has nearly 20 years of experience as a practitioner and instructor of Han Moo Do martial arts, competing in about 100 full contact fights and winning the World Championship gold medal in Michigan, USA in 2000. Martial arts has taught him the importance of leaders being lifelong learners and coaching others. Aslak is the CEO of Selfly Store, where they use the latest development in machine learning and AI to offer smart vending machines that make grab-and-go food shopping as easy as using your home fridge. He was recognized by Chiefs Digest as one of the 10 best CEOs to watch in 2023 and has been leading teams and companies for over 15 years. Before becoming CEO at Selfly Store, he was the CEO of Nordic Business Forum, one of the world's biggest business and leadership conferences, with over 7,000 attendees annually from over 50 countries and featuring world-class speakers like Barack Obama, George Clooney, and Steve Wozniak. Welcome, Aslak De Silva. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks, Lily. How are you?
Good. We're super excited to have you. Are you ready to pour into our listeners?
I am.
All right. So Aslak, tell us a bit about your path to leadership and what you're doing now.
Yeah, sure. I'm half Finnish, half Sri Lankan. So when I was born in Finland, so I noticed first that people start following me. They were asking questions, and I got into martial arts, and I started when I was 12. And then some years later, I noticed that people were coming for advice and wanted to learn from me. So I think those were kind of the first leadership positions that I ever held, was kind of teaching martial arts to others. And I pursued that career dream until I was 27. So I was actually in the end teaching clubs in 4 different countries in the Nordics, having about 20 clubs under me that I was traveling and teaching. But I was at the same time studying international management, and that was then my broader career plan to learn how to lead international teams. And then when I start my professional life working, so I started off from entry-level positions into management or team leader positions, and then to leadership position later on. And now I've been leading international teams for about 15 years in different countries. And yeah, on that path, and still feel like a student of leadership for sure.
But aren't we all? And I love to hear that because we never arrive, right?
True.
We're always learning. Okay, so martial arts, to me, it tells me that you're very disciplined.
There are lots of good things about that. And I think one is that you kind of, sometimes you feel that you're really good, and then you're brought back to ground, and then you learn that, okay, only by training and following instructions, you can become better and maybe win a fight sometimes. And then again, it happens. So you kind of learn the discipline from the training. And also the way I'd say the other thing that's good for leadership is to kind of control your mind and calm yourself down. Because if you're stressed or afraid or worried, then you don't think clearly. That's the other side of discipline that you learn from martial arts, is the mental discipline, and just to be able to overcome your fears, overcome your stress in those moments when it's needed. And that's a big thing to learn. And it's something that I'm still learning, that the mind is the one that's in control. It's not the body. It's really important. So what led you to martial arts? There's usually a really good story there. Well, yeah, I'm not sure if mine is a good one. Well, I think it's two-sided. So one was that my friends said that this would suit for me. For some reason, I was always intrigued about samurai stories and others. Then the other part is that being a half foreigner in Finland that time of the year, so it was not that usual. So then also partly for to defend myself when I was young, so we got into lots of fights. So then it was kind of a way to learn how to defend yourself. So I think it was both sides. I'd say that the fighting spirit for or fighting somebody outside of those martial arts classes. Then it was more about training and learning to become a better martial artist. And I think that was a good path that I chose there.
Yeah. Intrinsically, when I think of martial arts, I think of self-leadership. In other words, you can't lead others well if you're not leading yourself well. So there's a lot of really great foundational work here. Now, tell me, what are you doing now?
I'm the CEO for Selfie Store. So we built this smart coolers, self-service for people to grab and go quickly. And we are a team of about 50 people now, 15 different nationalities located in 7 different countries. So here we are mainly now working in Europe and taking the steps towards US as well. We have a customer coming from Europe to those locations. So then we are moving to do business in the US and New York as well.
Your Selfie Store, I see your machines behind you. So what makes this different from other vending machines?
Yeah, so there are 2 sides. So one is that it should be as easy to use as your home fridge. At home, the fridge doesn't ask you a credit card to show, and then you just open it, grab the things, then just close the door, and that's the transaction part of the vending machine. So you can literally pick up as many items you want, and it charges you accordingly how many you take. The other part is that we work a lot with data. So when we have customers in more than 20 countries in Europe, we collect all the data of the transactions, and then we have algorithms predicting what's going to be purchased. And we are using other data sources such as weather, or if you're in a hotel, so that it's a different need if you have 50% level of the rooms filled or 70%. So suddenly restaurants are more booked and there's no room and people are maybe more frustrated. So those kind of situations create other demand. Very easy example, if it rains tomorrow, the demand of umbrellas will increase. So this is what we do. Our kind of vending machines will then predict a bit more on the sales so that you should have the right products at the right time for the consumers when they have the need. So that's basically the trick that we work with.
Interesting. And so tell me how you shifted from what you were doing before to this.
Before this, I was a CEO for Nordic Business Forum, which is a event organizer arranging huge conferences in the Northern Europe. Speakers like President Obama, Sir Richard Branson, Brené Brown, Adam Grant, Simon Sinek, you name the top class world speakers. In the biggest events, almost 8,000 people in the audience at the same time. So queuing was a problem. How to limit people queue, how you direct them to go to places where there's no waiting time, and the customer experience was the full focus. Anything from the cloakroom to enter with the tickets or seating and so on. And then I got a call from the company Selfie Store, and then I visioned that, wait a minute, this is the same. How to get rid of queues and waiting times, and still think that the change in our human behavior, especially after the pandemic, is that we don't want to queue and stay with a lot of people. So when we need, we want it just now. I think the development of these food delivery services has been due to that, so that people order food home where they are. Similar things could happen in the offices or hotels or restaurants, wherever you are. And sometimes more grab and go can serve you as an easy solution and be quicker than anything else. So the trend is that every one of us hates queuing. So if we can get rid of those, so then we are on the right track, right?
Fantastic. So one of the things that comes to mind for me, Aslak, is the quality of food, right? So when I think of vending machines, especially here in the US, they're not the best quality foods, although in certain airports, I see that kind of shifting and changing. So tell us about the quality of the food and why is this different?
Yeah, so basically what we do is we sell the machine and then the operator decides what's there. But we have this kind of technique that we work with RFID technology, which means that all the items that are inside the vending machine itself are individual items and coded, and we can work with expiry date management automatically. So if you have fresh food, so you can put it in the Selfie Store, and if it's going to expire, so it can have automated discounts. So this way you can actually serve and sell the fresh food wherever you are, and there's no risk of having expired food there, because then basically then if it starts to get older, people will buy when the prices go down. And this has been lacking from standard vending machines, is that you have to come and see the assortment and the inventory, that how fresh it is. So that's why it has been very limited to snacks and beverages. But with this kind of where you can actually hold in your hand, automate a lots of things through the machine. So then fresh food can be sold. And this is what we see. More than half of the items sold from our vending machines are actually fresh food, salads to sandwiches and other meals. So I think the trend is very positive, at least what we see here in Europe and hopefully soon in the US as well with us.
Okay. So I'm in the US, I'm listening to this. How can I get more information?
Yeah, so our website, selflystore.com, SELFLY, Selfly Store, STORE. Good source of information. There's lots of different things. We love to share just the information on what you can do with data and so on. And then, of course, on LinkedIn, we are quite active. So find Selfly Store there or connect with me on LinkedIn. So I'm more than happy to connect with like-minded people and help out.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. All right. So we know shift happens as we're shifting here. And as leaders, it's super, super important to know that we've got to either embrace change, roll with the punches, right? And I'm sure you've done this. What is it that you do, or what practices have you taken on to help you get through times that are difficult?
One of the best teachers that I value is Jim Collins. Happy to join his master classes and hear him speak on stage. He has this ground book, Good to Great. Under same circumstances, same resources, for some reason, some companies do great and then some are good or even bad. And the shift from good to great is always about people. And I think that's the starting ground. And I think a good lesson for me from that book and in general, Jim's concept was the Stockdale paradox, where you need to face the brutal facts, but you should never lose your faith that someday things can be better. That's then the grounds that I work with. And it can be on the positive side as well, that regardless of how well it has gone, it can always go better. And you just have to believe in that and trust in the team and the culture in the team, that we are open and honest and there's no problem in being candor or anything. And from that, you can then start building the belief how to build the better future. And in the Stockdale paradox, he was a prisoner in Vietnam War, the highest ranking officer there. After that, when he got released, he was explaining to Jim Collins that the pessimists and the optimists didn't make. So pessimists are that I will never survive. The optimists were saying that I will survive by Christmas or they'll rescue me by Easter. So they had these goals that they thought. And then when that didn't happen, they broke their hearts and their spirits. And in the Stockdale paradox, it's more of that you don't set targets of any timeline, but you are not either saying that you're not going to make it. So I think that's one of the best lessons. And I still believe that it's the same for the growth mindset, in my opinion, that even if you have audacious goals, it should be the same. Doesn't matter if you reach the goal or not, but as long as you just kind of have faith and the will to try, and maybe that's then becomes the martial artist in me, that there's always a way to find, maybe just not today, but you have to learn to be better for tomorrow and then find your opportunity and then you will prevail in the end.
Well, I love that because it doesn't diminish faith. And faith happens when you don't see it, but you know that it's going to happen. You speak to this so beautifully. One of my best questions that I've been asking myself this year, and it's completely shifted so many things for me, is that when things don't go your way, don't get down and out. Don't stay in that space for too long, but ask yourself, what's my next best move?
Yeah. Very true.
You know, surrendering to the circumstances, and you know what you want, but how you get there is fluid.
Yeah, I believe in that. And sometimes you never know what you can learn tomorrow by having a discussion with somebody. Anybody can open up your eyes, but like you said, that it's just if you go with the flow and it's fluid. So someday something will happen, and you just have to have that courage and belief that things can go better.
Yeah, and as an entrepreneur, we're always living in that space, aren't we?
We're really true, yes.
All right. So, Aslak, as a lifelong learner, what are you learning right now?
I'm always learning on many things. So I have this routine that every morning when I wake up, I'll stretch, get my body ready for the day, and then I'll pick up something learning. Normally anything from leadership to marketing to sales or AI. But now I've been most intrigued about how to build the growth culture and a best place to work mindset. So actually, I'm now listening to a book called Cultures of Growth, where they're differentiating from fixed mindset to growth mindset, but not in the traditional way only. It's also depending on the company culture and situations. So we actually all have stagnated fixed culture, let's say in a job interview where we decide that maybe this person is not good enough for the team and will never grow. And that actually at that moment is more like a fixed mindset thinking. And we tend to think that it's either or, but it's actually more of the situational and maybe also on the organizational level, that how do you build it in a way that everybody can grow and complement each other, rather than you have 1, 2 heroes who are the best people in the company and you listen to them only. So trying to learn from that side and hopefully then building a better workplace for us as well, so that understanding these differences with the thinking and the impact of the culture that we have built around on different individuals.
Leading is really leading people. You can manage things, but you lead people, and learning people is super important in this process. Now, I know that you're currently in 15 different countries. Is that correct?
Oh, we have 15 different nationalities, yes, in the team.
15 different nationalities, and looking to grow in that area. How do you lead people in such diversity?
The way I look at it, like you said, we are all human, so different cultures have different rules. So my father coming from Sri Lanka, where you have more of a hierarchy where the leader and the boss is looked upon, and not everybody's even entitled to talk with them, and people are used to having servants and others. Then I was born and raised in Finland, where it's very gender equal, everybody's the same. There's only public schools and no privileges like this. School is free for everyone, so everybody has the same chance to make it. So 2 different worlds. So that of course has taught me that you need to understand these differences. But if you look at humans individually, everybody likes being valued and appreciated, heard. People like more humorous environment than serious. So I think there you start to kind of find your own code of culture or find your own way of dealing and interacting with people. I believe that communication is key, and as a leader, it's always hard to communicate enough. I have with my leadership team members one-on-one meetings once a week, but we interact in somehow every day. It can be anything from sending a GIF on WhatsApp to Teams message or having a Teams meeting or face-to-face meeting. And then with the teams that they are leading, so they will have their smaller team meetings. So we will have a leadership team meeting also frequently. But also with the whole team, we will have a frequent once a week meeting where everybody's seeing everybody and be able to talk and hear. So the communication needs to go to everybody at least once a week. And then we have twice a year this kind of a face-to-face meeting gathering where everybody's present, where we have no keynotes or speaking heads or presentations. We just are together with the team. We might work with escape rooms or innovate together or something, but then it's more about the face-to-face interaction with different team members. And I always deliberately distribute the team members differently, like IT works with sales and marketing, and so that you get to interact with the whole team. And if you then like that culture that you kind of have there, regardless who are your team members, then the company culture starts to be in the kind of the code of conduct starts to be there. The humor starts to be the same, and people are more relaxed, and international teams can be led in a way that everybody loves to join that. And it's just some special format then comes out of these actions, I'd say.
By the way, communication connection, that is absolutely key. You mentioned valuing people, but you also mentioned love. And to me, that's leadership. You've got to love the people you lead, right? And as a CEO of this organization, it's clear that you do, because you take the time out to really think that through. And it doesn't matter where you come from. Love is an international language.
Very true.
And so the fact that you see how important that is tells me a lot about how you lead. So thank you so much, Aslak. So when you think of leadership today, what most concerns you and what are you most hopeful about?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I think the concern comes maybe that lots of us have suffered from mental health issues and we are left alone. I'm always concerned about that in a fast-paced world, individuals are left out. And I hope that the kind of the leadership team members and everybody who's managing a team realizes that it's still these individuals. So it's not an Excel spreadsheet where you have numbers. So I'm worried that the balancing out and being there for others is just lost in the fast-paced world. At the same time, I'm most optimistic about that. We have plenty of tools to actually interact during out the day. So maybe this is then the martial arts looking at the yin yang, so positive and negative also on the same time. But I feel that today it's way easier to kind of interact with a lot more people quickly and make them feel valued. So I'm very optimistic that these kind of tools help us to communicate better and make people in the team feel that they are valued and heard and people care about them. So I do see the opportunity there as well.
Well, it's encouraging on my end to hear you say that, because what it's going to take is people who think like you, igniting other people who think like you, right? And so we bring that energy to the rest of the people that we have the privilege to lead. That's how we take care of each other. It's such a positive way of doing things. So I'm super encouraged. All right. So we have a surprise question. You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right. So we have a question from Wachin Yanu. Her question is, what is one leadership failure that turned out to be the biggest lesson for you?
Well, there will be so many failures that we will need to record another podcast about that. I think the first time that I had to lay off people, that was about 15, 20 years ago. I was a CEO at that time in a company. So I felt that my job is to defend the company so that the company can succeed. So I took this very harsh, just bluntly going everybody individually say that you can continue. And then if you couldn't continue, so saying to that person that I'm sorry, but this is it. And then when we were out of that situation, what I noticed was that I couldn't lead the team anymore because all of them were afraid. So I had turned into this cold fighter mode in a way that I show no emotions, just do the task and move forward. So I was asking others that, okay, let's now fix this. I noticed that people were afraid. There was no good feeling in the team, even though I had felt that like those who stay in the company must feel good because they could stay and they had their jobs, but that was just the opposite. Later on, then I noticed, like you said already, it's about people. So without them, you have no company. So that was a harsh lesson. And of course, feel regret for those people that I didn't treat well at that time. But I think I learned my lesson quite quick that always starts with the team, show them value, care, and be on their side, even on the tough situations. So sometimes it fails anyways, but still you feel good as a person and you will benefit that in the long term. Want to believe in kind of a karma that if you treat people well, you will be treated well in the end. So that was a good lesson for me.
Aslak, thank you so much for sharing that, because that's very vulnerable. And a lot of leaders find themselves in those situations where they have to fire people. If you were in a situation where you would have to do that again, how would you do that differently?
I might feel like a failure, but I would say that this is the situation and try to help them out, listen to them. You can say that you feel bad, but not to kind of say excuses that in my seat, it also feels bad, but just to be about the human there. And then also for the others after the unfortunate situations, I would give us time to kind of regroup and talk together. How do we feel? So I think that was lacking, to talk about our own feelings. Maybe we are scared in that moment or we see optimism, but just that we kind of as a group after the situation still have time to recover, talk about the stories. Maybe we made mistakes, say them out loud after a kind of a disaster. Those are the moments where people come together. So I would allow that to happen. So have that kind of a proper debriefing after that. So that will help everybody and give credit for the people who were fired in the end, so that they are also treated as humans and value them and talk positively about them as well, so that people can kind of acknowledge that as well, that they were not the ones to be blamed, but situation was unfortunately bad. So
that's a great lesson to learn, and in a hard way, but
yeah.
it's always a great lesson to learn. So thank you so much. Now, as a listener of this podcast, Aslak, what's a question that you would like a future leadership guest to respond to? Like, what are you curious about?
I asked this from myself many times, and maybe it's a bit difficult, but why do you believe that you can be a good leader? What does it take to be a good leader, and how do you scope it yourself?
Okay, so I'm going to ask you that. From your perspective, what does it take to be a good leader, and why are you a good leader?
Leadership takes courage because it's a position where you need to be strong and trust people. So I think it's always saying this yin yang kind of way that there's always two sides. So why do you need to be strong is that you need to get people to kind of trust that your vision and following you makes sense. So you need to be strong and confident and maybe a good communicator at the time so you can express your thoughts. And then the other side is then that you are vulnerable for the people that are there, that you show trust and actually empower them to do the work. And I think why I believe that I can be a good leader is that I have about 100 full contact fights. So I've been kind of the other end of that. So learning from the human nature when you're fighting and sensing the feeling. So I think that's one of my best things is that to kind of understand what the situation is and sense the feelings of people so that I can lead them to a better direction. Whether they're going wrong or right, I can encourage them to change. And I have no trouble in admitting that when I'm doing wrong. I have a bit of trouble for asking help. That's maybe something that I need to develop a lot more. So I think that's the strength that I have. Yeah.
So key things that you mentioned, courage, absolutely. Trust is a big one. You mentioned trust. And your way of being, Aslak, you occurred to me, and I'm all the way in New York, but I get your vibe. And you come from a space of humility and openness. And to me, that's very needed. And humility and wisdom are very, very connected, which is to me why you've nailed it. The fact that you see and you're very self-aware and know that, hey, I've got places to grow. I've got this thing where I don't ask for help. That's wonderful because that keeps you on that path of growth, right? So you mentioned also that you're a student of leadership, and every leader should always be a student of leadership. Isn't that right? We never arrive. So my friend, I value what you bring here. It is very, very powerful. And I love that you came here to share your knowledge and your wisdom.
Thank you so much. I'm a bit blushing, but thanks.
So is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, take chances, try out and learn. Again, a fighter comes that it's not about that if you get knocked down, but just like how many times you get up. It gives value to work with people and grow them and work together. Find your tribe, find your team, become an entrepreneur and lead it. That brings value not just for you, but for everybody in the society in the end. So I would just hope that we all have courage to try to take the leap of faith that changes the world to a better place.
Well, I love that. And I love how leaders are creating organizations that really serve people. And so your organization, Selfly, SELFLY store.com to get more information on this wonderful product. And they get to see the heart behind it. So that's really special. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lily. I appreciate it.
In closing, here's a quick message. Coaching is the art of influence that underpins leadership in the 21st century. It is the very thing that can get you from being stuck to being extraordinary. So go to masterleadership.org and sign up to get a free coaching session. Until next time, continue to ignite that leader in you.